So I'd like to focus on how an adolescent might receive a novel like The Magician and the Thief, published by Lucas Libris Latin Americas and distributed by Volumes Direct on Demand on the internet as a high school mainstay for growing up. Chapter 7. All across Toronto you could hear him howling, the aardwolf, a carnivore. He was wearing striped fur and a wolf's mask. His teeth were glistening in the moonlight. There were a pack of them, all dressed up in wolves' clothing, with black pentacles on a band of red on their left bicep. The meeting was about to adjourn. The leader was situated on a podium below the bridge of the Don Valley Parkway. The others listened intently. He was crying, "There is no time, there is no time. We must prepare the pack to attack religion and wipe the spirit from the land. There must be no more borders," he howled. "Only the individual wolf must survive the onslaught of war. We must wipe out the church, the temple, the mosque. We must harness our energy to destroy all sense of community from the land. Neighbor must be pitted against neighbor, brother against brother. We must feast on blood, and Cain must rule the land." This was broken up by rallying howls from the angry mob of infidels. "We must be thieves and steal the sense of banal religiosity from the security of man's will. There is no turning back from our mission. Jews, Christians, Muslims, and all those faithful will not be spared. The wolves will unleash chaos on this land and then restore order in the name of the lycanthropic drive. Hunger, hunger for blood. No man will be exempt from donning the wolf mask and shattering the organ of faith that conceals all repudiation. We must burn down buildings, synagogues, churches, and mosques. The underground man will not survive. Only the lycanthrope will devour it all." Again, there was another great howling from the crowd. Altogether, there must have been at least 40 of the wolves in the crowd. "But where do we begin?" shouted one. "We must begin with the underground man," cried the leader. "And in their compassion, the leaders of the religions are sure to fall," the aardwolf cried. "There will be no more tomorrow, no more yesterday, just the hungry ways of today. The moment is ripe for rape and plunder. From now on we shall wear our masks. For now, only at night. During the day we shall infiltrate the systems of politics, the legislature, the judiciary system. Very soon all will recognize a lycanthropic drive for power. And by night the moon shall be our guide to burn the houses of sin that call themselves the rightful paths. At night we will burn down the houses of religion, and at day we shall infiltrate the government and seek ways of tearing it down. We shall be guided by the wolves' howl and seek the day when the morning shall not rise again. There shall be no more golden dawn, only darkness. But there is one who must cut down first, for he must be our greatest enemy. Perturubo of the Golden Dawn poses our greatest threat, for you will side with the integration of religion that we seek to destroy, and he has power beyond our individual strength. We must tear him down, for by his singular hand he may wipe out all of us and our intentions. We must seek out his chambers and destroy this black crow from our midst, for he is white and black. We may turn him to our ways and persuade him to join us, but it is his aim to feed off the fervent, pious in their religion. He is a great magician, and only we can stop him. We must discover a plan to stop him before he can overrule our mission. For with one word he can deliver even the greatest blow to our cause. Once again we must exorcise all religion from our midst, all government, and then a new order of the lone wolf can be restored. With that last word the wolves howled. Lightning struck and it began to hail icy pellets the size of golf balls. "Quick to shelter," cried the aardwolf, and all the wolves leapt far off into the distance. Okay, chapter 8. No, I don't know if you want to be clapping at the lycanthropes. They're very evil. I don't even know if they clap at themselves. I mean, but the falcons might clap. So by day in the subways, on the streets, in business offices, and in the parliament, there could be seen men dressed in black with black pentagrams signed on red armbands. At night they donned their masks. They had sharp teeth, long and pointed ears, furry faces, arms, and black boots. Everywhere, after dark, people stopped to look as the wolves passed by. Many thought that it was just a joke, that these wolves were making a stance for some obscure political or advertising campaign. Then it happened. At midnight, a group of 4 wolves started setting fire to a synagogue in Kensington Market. A couple hours later, a church had its windows broken, and in black spray paint was the mark "The Wolves" painted on its walls. The synagogue fire was doused, but in both cases, the aggressors scampered out before the Jazz police could apprehend them. Later that night, a mosque received threats by telephone, claiming that if it did not shut down, the wolves would begin to dismantle it brick by brick. The next day on the evening news, the reports came down suggesting that a pack of looters, calling themselves the Wolves, were attacking the religious centers of the city, frightening children on the streets, ambushing people for their wallets, and generally acting like a wild group of thuggies. One report claimed that it even saw a wolf in the parliament, beginning to shout slogans about the end of days and that all true politicians must abandon religion altogether and fight for the power of one. But what did all this mean? Only Perturubo knew that it was his responsibility to overcome this nihilism before the city was overrun by beasts. Aside from the masks and the fur clothes, the only thing known about these criminals was that they wore 5-pointed star armbands and shouted slogans about crushing spiritual blindness and compassion. How could these wolves begin to overtake Hogtown so suddenly? Toronto the Good could not contemplate anything of this nature happening in its streets. Religion and spirituality were being hollowed out from the land, and people could actually be seen to be influenced by these thuggies. Wolves, hungry wolves. They would roam the streets in packs or in solitary numbers. Only Perturubo and the thief could bring it to a stop. When all spirituality is threatened, people get lost in the crowd and the herd masses and dangers abound. The church and state were being divided, and even the politicians could be seen to be influenced by the wolves. Without their masks, they were allowed into the government meetings, and nobody got in their way on the streets while their hoods were on. Anyone could see that chaos was in the offing. So how could magic dispel such a scene of ugliness on the streets, in the cafes, and in the government? The magician could conquer the wolves only through a counter-brainwashing that had been done to the wolves in the first place by their true Lyco leader, Wotan. The master summoned the thief to his chambers. When he arrived, he hailed the thief with his speech. "We must return the city to a situation of good government. The more that the wolves attack, the more that the people surrender. The temples, the churches, the monasteries, the mosques are all quick to surrender to the wolves. We must meditate and cast some spells to return the city to civil harmony. More and more people are donning the wolf mask, renouncing religion and political order. There's chaos in the streets. We must fight and show the people how to fight to restore political reason in this land, or else we're going to the dogs. Then spake Master Tarion, another of his names. I never thought that I would be in this position defending the rights of a whole city, proclaimed the Master. But Dharma takes you to strange places. The thief still had a little bit of white light left in his soul. I am certain you are right. Even as neutral as I am, I cannot accept the chaos that might ensue in these darkest of nights. We must fight and get others to join with us. We must have representation from all groups in society, political, ethnic, religious, and return the state to justice, peace, force, and joy. To quote a friend of mine, replied the thief, I am certain that you are right. We will contain this chaos and fight with the sword, using wit and force to undo the mess that has evolved around us. First, we must say a prayer. By all the powers that be, the Master intoned, we shall subdue the power of the wolves, abnegate the karma that has been excited, and return this state to one of confraternity. Amun-Ra. I'll read one more chapter that follows from this. And this is where the violence starts to ensue in The Magician and the Thief. Well, see, it's a Manichaean struggle. A Manichaean struggle between good and evil, between the power of political ideologies, both within a black ethos. Chapter 9. Somewhere in Hyde Park, a boy was shitting up a tree. The wolves had chased him to the water, and there was a pack of them on his heels. He was a young musician, a drummer. Now he could hear the drum beats racing through his head. The wolves were licking at his boots. He climbed to a high branch. Somehow satisfied, the wolves were off. Somewhere on Yonge Street, there was a pack of wolves seducing a young girl. They were salivating on her open blouse. Gradually she gave way and submitted. They tore open her blouse and she went crying up the street. The wolves were eventually kicked out of the pub as they were proclaiming, "You must live dangerously." In the provincial parliament building, the wolves were gathered declaring, "All you mortal men are blinded by your decency." They entered the legislature in full mask, tearing open desks and jostling with politicians. Though they would do no more than this, they were content with the manic air that they were causing. The police entered and tore them from the room, subduing most of them up in handcuffs. Their only proclamation was that they would return. One called out, "All you wizened ones are on crack. You have no real spirit, no zeal for life. We come in the way of life force pounding from our chests. You will all dwell in death. We have sucked up your death for long enough. Now we shall overtake you. This is where the life force and the death force meet. Be on guard for the vengeance of the wolves." The leader was not included at the melee at the legislature. He was devising a plan for his arch rival, Perturubo, the only name with which he would willingly identify his foe. Meanwhile, synagogues, churches, and mosques were all being targeted for their spiritual compassion by the wolves. Blinded by their cruel intentions, the wolves continued to infiltrate their infrastructures, burning Bibles and other holy books. The wolves entered these holy buildings at night, setting fires to the various names of the Lord, and leaving their trademark pentagram, spray painted on walls, underlined with the name of the wolves. In the gay district, there was more punishment going around. An easy target, the homosexual community was being picked apart by the wolves. There was an incident with a knife where one man was stabbed on the street. The wolves didn't like the gay man for obvious reasons. They thought that homosexuality was an aberration. This was linked to the church. They believed that the church turned many into fruit flies. And this was only the beginning. What Toronto knew of its liberty, equality, and fraternity was rapidly being eaten away by the wolves. It was all in the name of the one. Only through magic and prayer could this situation be made right by the power of Master Tarion, Aleister Crowley. Now there was a resounding fall of cold rain smattering Toronto the good, exciting thoughts of this madness and chaos. That was linked to the name of order. Could this corruption be returned to a state of civil purity? The police were doing all they could to combat the new foe, but it was out of control. Even some officers had donned the mask of the wolf. And so it was left up to the thief and the magician to devise a new plan to make things sacred once again. A cold war that had been ignited into fire. That's just a couple chapters from The Magician and the Thief, all that I could bear to give you at the moment.